Om Jnana-timirandasya Niranjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Angum Mangayate Gari Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurandina Paranam Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shandavani Vastujade Sakarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I will speak a little bit today about Harinam initiation, since there are 5 devotees who will be taking their Harinam initiation vows today. I'll speak a little bit also maybe about qualifications of a Brahmin, since there are some devotees accepting their Gayatri mantras today. First we'll speak about Harinam initiation. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shraddha Shabdi Vishvash Kahi Sujita Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Savakama Kritahaya. That Shraddha means firm, confident faith. That simply by engaging in devotional service, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, automatically all one's subsidiary duties can be fulfilled. This is described as faith, Shraddha. It's an important criteria for anyone who is going to take vows today for initiation. The initiation vows that they're taking is that they will chant a prescribed number of rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day for the rest of their lives, and that they will follow the 4 regulative principles. I won't say what they are. I'll let the devotees speak for themselves which regulative principles they want to follow. They're the ones taking the vows, not me. And neither am I checking your memories to see if you remember what the 4 regulative principles are when I ask you to take your vows. I assume you all know or have memorized what they are, but they're actually vows that you're taking. There's a verse, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vishmartavyo Najatu Chit Sarvavidi Nisedasya Etiya Ida Kinkara. Krishna must always be remembered, and he must never be forgotten. All the rules and prohibitions which are given in the scriptures are meant to be the servant of these 2 principles. First is that one should always remember Krishna. Sarvavidi, these are prescribed activities. Prescribed activity is always remember Krishna, and the prohibition is don't forget Krishna. So these prescribed activities and prohibitions are also prescribed at the time of initiation. The prescribed activity is that a devotee will takes a vow that what's favorable for remembering Krishna is to chant Hare Krishna. Of course, incessantly is the preferred method of chanting, but at least minimum 16 rounds a day. That is the prescribed activity, and the prohibited activity is to refrain from the sinful pillars of life. Pillars of sinful life, I should say. The 4 pillars of sinful life. So, these are meant ultimately to help one to smartavyam satata Vishnu, which is to always remember the Supreme Lord. So Shraddha means that one has to have firm, confident faith that by engaging in devotional service, beginning with the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, then automatically one's subsidiary duties can be fulfilled. Conversely, it also means that those who foolishly think that if they perfectly fulfill all their subsidiary duties, then it automatically fulfills the primary necessity of having firm faith in the holy name, which is not the fact. So, for a disciple to actually make these vows, there has to be some basis. They have to at least come to the point of realizing that they'll never give up the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. That degree of faith has to be there. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Harinam Chintamani that it is the duty of the spiritual master to inculcate this faith in his disciples. And he describes that one of the offenses to the holy name of the Lord, as we might recite every morning for some, is to preach the glories of the holy name of the Lord to the faithless. And he actually says that a faithless person is a person who thinks that, let me take initiation so I can become absolved from my sinful activities, and so once I'm initiated I can go ahead and not have to worry about committing them. Or it also means so that I can get respect, and if I get, because now I'm an initiated devotee, and if I get sufficient respect, then I can extract service from others. And in this way, out of pride, one thinks that taking initiation is meant to fulfill this purpose. He describes this as a criteria of a person who doesn't actually have faith in the holy name of the Lord. And he says that to give the holy name of the Lord to a faithless person is like giving fancy clothes to a monkey. If you give fancy clothes to a monkey will simply rip them up. Or if you throw pearls before swine, they'll simply step on it. So in the same way, it is considered to be offense to initiate a person who doesn't have the requisite faith in chanting the holy name of the Lord. And therefore, he says that the primary duty of those giving Harinam initiation is to first check to see if that disciple, that candidate, is actually capable of making such vows. I oftentimes explain to devotees who think that yes, I have been following the regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it may be, and that's a fulfilled requirement. But actually that's only small part of the requirement. That not only do I, as a person who accepts devotees for initiation, have to see what the past is, but I also have to see what the future is. And seeing the future for me, for a devotee, also means that they have to have faith in chanting the holy name of the Lord. And also, very important, is they have to have faith in the power of association with devotees. That to have the association of devotees and to be able to have the loving exchanges of revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, giving prasad, accepting gifts, giving gifts. Srila Rupa Goswami describes these are exchanges of loving, exchange of affection between one devotee and another. And without having such loving exchanges amongst the society of devotees, I have to question sometimes if a devotee is actually able to keep his vows. Because Maya, the illusory energy, is very strong. Srila Prabhupada used to give the example that if you take one piece of straw, it's very easy to crack, to break. But if you bundle that straw together into a big bundle, if you try to break it, it's very difficult, because it has the strength of the other straws included. So in the same way, if we isolate ourselves due to pride, if we isolate ourselves due to a fault-finding mentality, of course, pride is the root cause of that fault-finding mentality. If we do not appreciate and offer respect to other devotees and practice the principles of Trinadapi Sunichena Tvaradi Vasahishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari, then how can one make a vow to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the rest of one's life? It's like the empty vow. Because Lord Chaitanya says that this is the consciousness one actually has to have to be Kirtaniya Sada Hari, to be able to always chant the holy name of the Lord. Which means that one has to think oneself to be lower than a straw on the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, always ready to offer respect to others. Oops. Nothing serious, I hope. Was somebody on the chair that fell? You? It's okay, no apologies. I just want to make sure you're not hurt. Okay. One should think oneself to be lower than a straw on the street, I guess maybe. Lord Chaitanya was helping you to become a little lower. Sorry. I didn't plan it that way. And ready to offer all respects to others and never wanting any respect for oneself. It's a pretty tall order. Lord Chaitanya, when he was explaining this verse, he said that the tree, even if it's drying up, it never asks anyone for water, and even if someone comes and breaks its branches, it never complains. That is the quality of a tree. And we have to become more tolerant than a tree, and more tolerant than a tree. I remember the first Bhagavad Gita verse I ever learned was Matra Spashastu Konteya Sitoshna Sukadukada Agavapayana Nityastam Statiksha Svabharata. I'm sure many devotees. I learned this in a parking lot. I think it was probably my second day out on book distribution. And during those days, early part of 1973, Prabhupada told us that our movement first would be ridiculed, then be persecuted, and then they'll accept us. So I guess I'm sure Gokulananda Prabhu can testify. There was a lot of ridiculing in those days. And Matras Pashastu Konteya, that the non-permanent appearance and happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, Oskaya and Maharaja, and one has to learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So, we have to learn how to, and another place Srila Prabhupada speaks about tolerance. In the Bhagavad Gita verse, where he describes the qualities or characteristics of knowledge, one of them being tolerant. He describes tolerance as that one has to become tolerant of the minor offenses of others. In this way, he said this is also another characteristic, that sometimes when they commit a minor offense, and we blow it up into something very big and become very intolerant. So, this state of consciousness, Lord Chaitanya describes in his Shastika prayer as an essential criteria. And if one wants to live in the society of devotees, because Prabhupada emphasizes that we should always aspire to live in the society of devotees. Lord Chaitanya himself said that he'd rather stay in a cage with a tiger than to be bereft of the association of devotees. It was a conversation with Ramananda Roy. So, to be able to stay in the society of devotees, one really has to develop this quality of tolerance, humility, and being able to offer respect. It's a very, very important criteria. Is also being able to respect everyone, and the best way of being able to respect all living beings is to understand that Krishna is in their heart, and therefore we offer our respects because it is the temple of the Supreme Lord. And we should always be respectful. Srila, I think it was Jiva Goswami explains in his commentary to a verse in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he describes the characteristic of a very neophyte devotee. He says that he cannot show proper respect to other devotees. And he says that one who cannot show proper respect to other devotees is practically useless for preaching, because how can he respect non-devotees if he can't even respect devotees? Because if you want to be effective for preaching, you have to respect others. And Lord Chaitanya even declared that he will give pure love of Godhead to everyone, any living entity who respects all living beings and doesn't commit offenses towards others, and always chants the holy name of the Lord. So respect is also very important. So, as I said, that I have to think of the future of the candidate and not just simply the past, that they've been able to withstand the turbulences or tests that they may have had prior to coming to the platform of taking their vows, but they have the association and they have the qualities necessary for Kirtaniya Siddhahari, which means that they know how to live in the society of devotees, and they know how to show proper respect towards others, and they know how to depend ultimately on Krishna. And as Lord Chaitanya says, that a devotee is, as he doesn't ask anyone for anything, just like a tree when it's drying up doesn't ask anyone for water, and he accepts whatever is given. And he says that this type of behavior nourishes one's devotional service, so that one may can go on chanting the holy name of the Lord. So it's a lot. It seems like a tall order that I expect to see in the candidates when they do take their vows. But at least I feel the necessity to speak about it, because otherwise I'll be remiss in my duties as well if I don't say that this is the kind of faith that has to be there when you take your vows. And each candidate last night, the first question I asked them is, are you ready to take your vows? And I want to make sure that all of them understand why I'm asking that question. Are you really serious that taking vows is something that you can now say at this time in initiation? Usually there's deities present, but in front of the deities, the sacrificial fire, spiritual master, and Vaishnavas, one has to be conscious of the fact that this is the vow that they're taking. And as I said, quoting Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, unless one who is giving that initiation emphasizes the need to have that faith, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur also explains what the consequences are. He says that the consequences is that if the disciple doesn't have that faith, and if the spiritual master simply gives the holy name because of some position of his own pride or desire for wealth, then he falls down because of the offenses committed by the disciples who do not have faith. He can fall down, he says. He has to take reaction because they offend the holy name. This is the monkey rips clothes and the swine steps on pearls. The one who takes the holy name of the Lord without sufficient faith will offend the holy name of the Lord. He falls down and drags down others as a result of those offenses. So one has to be very careful of this serious vow to take at the time of initiation. And therefore, as I said, that the candidates for initiation, I have to also think about their ability to really stay in the society of devotees and to treat others with proper respect, and to be able to especially respect senior devotees, what to speak of my God brothers and God sisters, who've also given so many years of their life to service of Srila Prabhupada and have withstood the test of time. They should be given all respect, and their advice should always be sought, and their association should be sought, because they're here also to do and to fulfill the same purpose as I am, is to help others make progress in spiritual life. And if we want to keep ourselves bundled together in a very big bundle, we should not think that it's an exclusive club that exists simply between the spiritual master and the disciple, but actually there are many others who are actually fulfilling that same role and actually can help to fulfill the same purpose and goal of helping the devotee to advance in spiritual life. An example that is given is that if one looks off into the distance, looking at the Himalaya mountains, and sees Mount Everest off in the distance, and he thinks, oh, I see Mount Everest. But there are many other subordinate mountains also closely associated with Mount Everest. But if one can only see the big mountain and doesn't see the others, then that's a symptom that he's far away, not that he's close. Because as one comes closer and closer, one sees that there are many others who also are in association with the Mount Everest, even though it may appear from a distance to be taller. And so in the same way, there are many other devotees. It's not just simply my spiritual master and myself, but it's many other devotees who are present and who can help. And one has to learn how to hear from other Vaishnavas and to take help from them and to get strength from them. And to be able to do that means Trinadapi Sunichina. One has to really think oneself lower than the straw in the street. One has to be able to see that there are many other devotees who are qualified to give me help, who I can reveal my mind to. We should not be like Duryodhana when he was asked, can you find anybody who is greater than you? And goes throughout the kingdom, returns and says, no, I'm sorry, I don't find anybody who is greater than me. And when Yudhishthira was asked the question, he said, I can't find anybody who's more fallen than I am. So This is the difference. The devotee thinks himself to be very low, and he sees the good qualities in others, and he's always ready to appreciate the good qualities in others, and therefore he'll survive. He has a future, because he's practicing this principle that Lord Chaitanya has taught us, to be able to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord in this humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. So, I was going to read something else, but I think I won't read it. I think I've spoken enough about the necessary faith that disciples should have to commit themselves to continue to chant the holy name of the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that, I will read one thing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in this connection. I was discussing, I said I was going to read this morning when I was talking about how the Acharya makes things easy. And Prabhupada was saying that by the mercy of the Acharyas who cross the ocean and leave behind their instructions for others to cross that same ocean, he says that they make it easier for the candidate to make advancement in spiritual life. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says in the Shri Bhakti Loka that after receiving initiation instructions from a bona fide guru, a fortunate disciple should follow the path of the previous sadhus. Those who are proud neglect the previous mahajans and create new paths. As a result, they soon proceed on their own auspicious path and ruin themselves. It is said in the Skanda Purana, Samrigya Shaya Samhetu Panta Santapa Varjita Anavapta Shamam Purveina Santa Pratashtire. One should strictly follow the easy path, which the previous mahajans have accepted. That path bestows great auspiciousness and is devoid of all misery. And then he says, by discussing this path of previous acharyas, one gets great satisfaction. And he gives Haridas Thakur as one of the previous acharyas that one should discuss and feel satisfaction. He says, when we discuss the path of devotional service exhibited by Sri Rup, Sri Sanatan, Sri Raghunath, and Sri Haridas Thakur, we feel such happiness that it cannot be described. When the miscreant Mohammedans tortured Haridas Thakur, he said, quote, Kanda Kanda Hai Deha Yaya Yadi Pran Tabu Amivadanai Nachari Harinam. That even if my body is cut into pieces and I lose my life, I will never give up chanting the Lord's holy name. O Krishna, please be merciful upon these poor souls. Kindly excuse them for their offense of torturing me. These were Haridas Thakur's words. And this is the point that I was citing this morning. He says that maintaining this type of determination and being compassionate to all living entities, while always chanting the holy name of Krishna, is the path of devotional service exhibited by the previous mahajans. Path cannot be manufactured. Whatever path is there should be accepted by sadhus. Those who are proud and want fame try vigorously to discover new paths. Those who have good fortune from past lives give up pride and respect the established path. Those who are unfortunate promenade on a new path and thus cheat the world. So this is the path our previous acharyas have said, that I will never give up the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Even if you cut my body into pieces and I lose my life, I will not give up chanting. This type of determination and compassion. We spoke about his compassion this morning, I won't repeat it, that he had for those who were torturing him. So, interesting enough, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this is the easy path. Well, they say, oh, wait a minute, Doesn't sound so easy to me, to be beaten through 22 marketplaces and tortured. And at the same time, feeling compassion towards those who are torturing one. But it is easy. Why? And we explain what makes it easy. Not that necessarily we have to undergo the same torment as Haridas Thakur underwent, but we have that example. We have that example, and we have the example of others, of those who tolerated all kinds of inconvenience, as Srila Prabhupada did, who are always compassionate towards everyone, as Srila Prabhupada was, and who are very determined, as Srila Prabhupada was. We can give so many examples. I have personally, I could speak a long time about this, because somehow I've had this renewed enthusiasm this year. I'm studying Srila Prabhupada's life very meticulously. I've read, in the last few months, I've read the whole Prabhupada Leelamrita again. I've read Miracle on Second Avenue. I've read Blazing Sadhus. I'm reading all the books about Srila Prabhupada and cross-referencing them, especially Prabhupada's early days and how he was so tolerant, so determined. And I can cite so many examples of Prabhupada's determination, especially in establishing the temple for Radha Rasa Bihari in Mumbai. There's definitely some extraordinary determination Srila Prabhupada manifested. Extraordinary compassion Srila Prabhupada manifested. I was reading Prabhupada's in the early days, and he was accepting his first group of disciples, and he was telling him that he wanted them to take initiation, but none of them knew what it was. And they started talking amongst themselves about initiation. What is it that Swamiji wants us to be initiated? What does it mean? What does initiation mean? And they started speculating amongst themselves, and one of them said, well, if Swamiji says I should be initiated, that's good enough for me, I'll just take initiation. And others started questioning it, and they came to Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada. One of them said, what does this mean, initiation? And Prabhupada said, initiation means when you accept the spiritual master to be as good as God. They had never heard this before, because Prabhupada always spent so much time emphasizing that spiritual master is never God. And then the devotee was asking Srila Prabhupada, what do you mean, Prabhupada? Swamiji. So Prabhupada explained. And he so very readily accepted devotees, and so compassionate, that during the first initiation, practically nobody even really fully understood. Prabhupada, of course, still nonetheless, as we explained before, was the perfect example, and gave him faith by his example. And then, after giving beads and the names to all the devotees to the initiation, then everybody got up and left, and Prabhupada cleaned up after the initiation himself. That's compassion. We could tell so many stories about Prabhupada's compassion, but the point is that we learn it from example. And although we may not undergo such difficult tribulations such as Haridas Thakur, nonetheless the path becomes easy when we see how other devotees traversed the path and became successful by their example. And that gives us faith. That's what gives us faith. And we can look at Srila Prabhupada, and we can also look at so many other devotees who teach by that example of their determination and their compassion and their dogged determination to chant Hare Krishna despite all difficulties. And if we simply stay in the association of those devotees, it makes it easier. That's what it means, the easy path. But if we don't have that association, then we immediately start thinking, oh, I don't have the strength, I can't do it alone, and I don't think anybody else, I don't see anybody else who can do it. So why should I do it? Dangerous situation to be in. So, as we said, some devotees also will be taking Gayatri mantras today. Becoming Brahmins, they should know what are the qualities of a Brahmin. Samo dhamma tapas saucham shantim ajana evacha jnana vijnanam astikyam brahmakava svabhavajam. Prabhupada would oftentimes quote this verse. Samo, peacefulness, dhamma, self-control, tapa, austerity, saucham, purity. Samo dhamma tapa saucham kshantir, tolerance, ajavam, honesty. Evacha, jnana vijnana. Jnana means knowledge. Vijnana, Prabhupada defines it as wisdom, although it means realized knowledge. It is wisdom. Jnana vijnanam astikyam, and religiousness or religiosity. These are the qualities for which the Brahmins work. And there is another verse, Dhammas satyam cha dhammas tapascha amatsaram hristitikshanasya yagyascha dhanam chatuti shutam cha pratani vai dvarasa brahmanasya. 12 qualities of a Brahmin. Brahmin must be perfectly religious. He must be truthful. He must be able to control his mind and his senses. These are some pretty high criteria. That's only 3 of them. We still have a few more. He must be perfectly religious. He must be truthful. He must be able to control his mind and his senses. He must be expert, and he must execute severe austerities. And he must be detached, humble, and tolerant. He must not be envious of anyone. And he must be able to offer whatever he has in his own possession in charity for others. He must be very expert in performing sacrifices. He must be fixed in devotional service. He must be very expert in the Vedic conclusions, Vedic wisdom. And these are the 12 qualities of a Brahmin. Pratani vai dvarasa brahmanasya. We gave a talk about this the other day. 2 devotees were taking Brahmin initiation. And I understood as I was quoting the verse and explaining these things to them that they were questioning, like, is this me? You know, and maybe some of you may be thinking the same. Actually, Prabhupada gave us the opportunity to develop these qualities. And even though they were not fully manifest yet, or may not be fully manifest, the same principle is there. What was his criteria? Criteria was one's faith. And I look at so many times Prabhupada's, when he would speak about his disciples, he would oftentimes quote the verse, Yena tena prakarina mana Krishna naveshaya sabhavidi nishedasyo etiyo eva kinkara. He says it's the duty of the spiritual master to somehow or other get his disciple to think of Krishna. All the rules and regulations, they can come later. Or he would quote the verse, Yasyasti bhaktiya bhagavachi kinchana savai gunaistattva samasate sura harava bhaktasya kato mahadguna manoratena sati davato vihi. That all good qualities automatically become manifest in one who is determined to be always engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So, although all the full qualities may not be fully manifest, Prabhupada's criteria was faith. And he would oftentimes point to his disciples and say they have faith. That is their qualification. They are lovers of Krishna. Just see how they're ready to do anything for me. Like there's that famous story that Malati tells. Wonderful story. It's a long story. Not such a long story, but it's an example Malati tells that story, that time when she was cooking for Prabhupada and she was undergoing some difficulties at the time. She was living in Mayapur. It was in the early 1970s, and Mayapur was definitely not the most comfortable facility to live in at that time. And she had to cook over wood, and she was explaining not only that she cooked over wood, which is very smoky, but the treasurer would only give her enough Lakshmi to daily go and buy the boga for Prabhupada. And to go and buy boga in those days meant she had to get on the boat and go to Navadvip every day to buy boga. And it was becoming very, very difficult for her in her mind. She started thinking, especially she was taking care of her, I think, her 1-year-old daughter at the time also. So she was starting to think, I don't know if I can keep on doing this. It was very, very difficult for her. And then one day, Prabhupada asked her, he said, my godbrothers are coming, and I want you to cook for them. And she was thinking, I'm having a difficult time enough cooking just for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's now asking me to cook for all his godbrothers who are coming too. But she was thinking, I'll just surrender. Although in her mind that she was thinking, definitely I know at some point I'm thinking I might have to say something to Prabhupada, how difficult this is for me. But she put it aside that day and went about her duties and got the boga, and she began cooking for Prabhupada and his godbrothers. And after she prepared the meal, Prabhupada wanted specifically because some of his godbrothers, they challenged Prabhupada, how can you accept food from these lectures and low-class people. And Prabhupada wanted to offer them food that was cooked by Malati and show them. And so Malati came in with the first plate, and she said how she covered her head with a cloth, and she was very embarrassed to show herself before Prabhupada and all the devotees. And she kind of slipped in and put the plate on the floor in front of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada immediately said, "Oh," he said, "Oh, God, this is Malati Dasi. She has cooked for all of us today." And then he said, "She is a very nice devotee. She will cut her throat for me, and I will cut my throat for her." Prabhupada said that. They're just showing, see what they're ready to do for me. Of course, Malati said at that point, no way in her mind was she going to think of stop cooking for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada will always emphasize, they have faith. They have faith. That is their qualification. Show me who has this faith. This is what's required. We may not have the qualities, but if we have faith that simply by following the path of the previous maharajas, all good qualities will come. And therefore, we always look to the example of our acharyas who are always teaching us how to keep that faith in pure devotional service. And automatically those who keep on chanting the holy name of the Lord, that withstand the test of time, all these good qualities will become manifest if they practice Trinadi Sumachina Torori Vasudishnana. And in due course of time, one will become perfectly religious, truthful, be able to control the mind and senses. One will become execute austerities, become detached, humble, tolerant, not be envious of anyone, be able to offer all of one's possessions in charity for the welfare of others, to be expert in performing sacrifices, and to be fixed in devotional service, and to be very expert in the conclusions of the scriptures. This is the qualities of brahminical life that all of you should aspire for. And for those who will be taking their Gayatri mantras today. I didn't expect to speak this long. I apologize. Maybe we should go forward. I think we have other activities, events scheduled for this evening. We should go forward with our yajna and let the candidates come forward, accept their beads, and take their vows. Hare Krishna.